Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the Mars Colonial Defense Station, watching the red planet's twin moons cast shadows across the rust-colored landscape below. The emergency klaxons had been silent for exactly 17 minutes, the longest pause in what would later be called the 17-hour war. Her weathered hands gripped the railing as she processed the impossible readings streaming across her neural interface. The Zephyrian Collective had chosen their moment perfectly. Earth's nations were locked in a bitter dispute over Antarctic mining rights. Mars colonies were threatening independence, and the Jupiter gas miners hadn't sent tribute to Earth in 6 months. Humanity was more divided than ever, exactly as the aliens had calculated from decades of intercepted communications. Elena's comlink crackled to life. "Captain, incoming transmission from all sectors simultaneously. Every frequency, every language, every colony." The communications officer's voice carried a tremor of disbelief. It's everyone. Everyone's talking to everyone." She activated her holographic display, watching in stunned silence as the impossible unfolded. The Antarctic dispute forgotten. Mars' independence abandoned. Jupiter's rebellion ended. In the space of minutes, humanity had done what centuries of diplomacy couldn't achieve. Absolute, instantaneous unity. The alien mothership hung like a dark moon above Earth, its hull stretching across continents. Smaller vessels had taken positions around Mars, the asteroid belt, and Jupiter's moons. Their technology was clearly superior energy signatures that defied human understanding, propulsion systems that bent space-time itself. The Zephyrians had every advantage, except one they couldn't have predicted. "Sir," her tactical officer interrupted, "we're receiving unified command protocols from Earth Command, Mars Central, and everyone. Every human settlement, every station, every ship. They're all linking into a single command structure." Elena felt something she hadn't experienced since the Earth-Mars conflicts, hope mixed with terrifying determination. The aliens had studied humanity's divisions, but missed the deeper truth. When cornered, humans didn't scatter. They gathered. When threatened with extinction, they became something greater than the sum of their parts. Her personal communicator chimed with a direct message from Admiral Chun on Earth. "Elena, you're our expert on impossible victories. Time to teach these visitors why humans are still here after 200,000 years of trying to kill ourselves." She looked out at the Martian landscape, remembering the battles fought on these very plains during the colonial war. Those conflicts had seemed so important then, so worth dying for. Now they appeared as mere practice sessions for the real test. The Zephyrians had made a fundamental miscalculation. They'd assumed human conflict was weakness, not recognizing it as our species sharpening itself for the ultimate challenge. *3. Decks below the command center. In what had once been the Mars Colonial Defense Station's detention block, former prisoners of war now worked alongside their captors, converting holding cells into weapons manufacturing bays. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Yesterday's enemies had become today's essential. All eyes in the span of a single alien broadcast. The Zephyrian ultimatum had been transmitted simultaneously to every human device capable of receiving signals. Their message was simple, delivered in perfect human languages with the cold precision of a species that had conquered dozens of worlds. Surrender within 24 hours or face systematic elimination. Your compliance will be rewarded with preservation as a client species. What the aliens hadn't anticipated was humanity's response. Within minutes of the broadcast, every major leader on Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies had initiated the Aurora Protocol, a theoretical emergency unification plan that most considered impossible to implement. Elena watched the impossible become reality as former enemies shared classified military secrets, abandoned territorial claims, and pooled resources with unprecedented speed. Dr. Sarah Chun, Earth's leading xenobiologist, appeared on Elena's holographic display from Geneva. Elena, we've been analyzing their communication patterns. The Zephyrians are a collective consciousness. They literally cannot understand how we're coordinating so quickly while maintaining individual thought. To them, we should either be a hive mind or chaotic individualists. Our middle path is incomprehensible. Elena studied the tactical displays showing human forces across the solar system. Asteroid miners were converting their industrial equipment into kinetic bombardment systems. Jupiter's gas harvesters were synthesizing chemical weapons using their atmospheric processors. Even civilian transports were being retrofitted with weapon systems that violated every space treaty humanity had ever signed. Their biggest mistake, Elena realized aloud, is thinking our conflicts made us weak. They didn't understand that every war we fought taught us something new about survival. The communications officer looked up from his station. Captain, we're receiving reports from the outer system. The Zephyrian fleet is ... confused. They're slowing their advance, apparently trying to understand how we achieved unified command so quickly. Elena allowed herself a grim smile. The aliens had spent decades studying humanity's divisions, but they'd focused on the wrong data. They'd seen the wars, the conflicts, the seemingly endless cycle of human-on-human violence. What they'd missed was that each conflict had been a learning experience, a crucible that forged stronger survivors. "Patch me through to all human forces," Elena commanded. "All frequencies, all languages, all colonies." When the connection stabilized, she spoke. "Into the void. This is Captain Elena Vasquez to all human forces." The aliens studied our wars and thought they showed weakness. They were wrong. Every battle we fought was practice for today. Every conflict taught us something new about how to win when everything seems lost. Today, we show them what humans do when someone threatens our home. The attack began at 0347 Mars Standard Time, when the first human forces struck the Zephyrian perimeter scouts near Jupiter. Elena watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction as asteroid mining ships, their cargo holds filled with refined metals and explosives, accelerated toward alien vessels at velocities that would have been considered suicide runs just days earlier. The beauty of humanity's counterstrike lay not in its technology. The aliens still held that advantage, but in its absolute unpredictability. Where the Zephyrians expected coordinated fleet movements, humans sent individual ships on chaotic attack vectors. Where aliens anticipated defensive formations, they encountered humans who had somehow turned garbage scows into guided missiles. "Captain, incoming data from the Jupiter engagement," her tactical officer reported. "The gas miners are using atmospheric processors as weapons. They're creating localized pressure waves that are disrupting alien formation flying." Elena nodded, unsurprised. Humans had always been exceptional at weaponizing their environment. The Zephyrians, accustomed to conquering species that fought conventionally, found themselves facing an enemy that treated everything from mining equipment to sewage recyclers. Potential weapons. Her communication array lit up with reports from across the solar system. Mars defense platforms were firing not just missiles, but compressed atmosphere canisters that created debris fields. Earth's orbital stations had somehow converted their waste disposal systems into kinetic bombardment platforms. Even the research station at Europa was contributing, using their ice drilling equipment to create impromptu projectile launchers. "Sir, we're getting reports that the alien formations are adapting," the communications officer said, his voice tight with concern. "Their tactical AI is learning from our attacks." "Expected," Alana replied. "Time for Phase 2. Transmit the Lazarus Protocol to all human forces." The Lazarus Protocol was insane by any conventional military standard. Deliberately sacrificial strategy that involved human forces feigning critical damage while setting up devastating ambushes. It relied on something the collective-minded Zephyrians couldn't comprehend: individual humans' willingness to appear defeated while maintaining absolute determination to win. Across the solar system, human vessels began transmitting distress signals while secretly maneuvering into attack positions. Mining ships appeared to suffer catastrophic failures while actually preparing to ram alien vessels. Defense stations broadcast surrender offers, while their crews worked frantically to overload their reactors for maximum destructive potential. Helena's personal communicator chimed with a priority message from Admiral Chun. "Helena, their main fleet is moving toward Earth. They think they've broken our outer defenses. Phase 3 is authorized." She looked out at the Martian landscape, knowing that in the next few hours, much of what humanity had built might be destroyed. But the aliens had made one crucial error in their calculations. They'd assumed humans fought to preserve what they had, not understanding that humans would destroy everything they built to ensure their children had a future. "All stations, this is Vasquez. Execute Terra Protocol." "I repeat, execute Terra Protocol." The most desperate gambit in human history was about to begin. Asterisk, asterisk. Helena felt the Mars Colonial Defense Station shudder as its massive engines ignited for the first time in 15 years. Around her, the command crew worked with the focused intensity of people who knew they were about to die for something greater than themselves. The Terra Protocol demanded nothing less than the deliberate destruction of human civilization's greatest achievements to create a trap that would ensure the Zephyrians could never return. "Captain, Earth Command confirms Terra Protocol is active across all major installations." Her communications officer reported, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to do. "Luna Base has begun destabilizing their fusion reactors. The asteroid belt mining platforms are redirecting toward Convergence Point Alpha." Helena watched the tactical display with a mixture of pride and heartbreak. Across the solar system, humanity was systematically destroying everything they'd built over 2 centuries of space expansion. The great orbital cities around Earth were being evacuated and rigged for destruction. Mars terraforming stations were being converted into massive bombs. Even the precious water harvesting operations on Europa were being sacrificed. The Zephyrian main fleet had taken the bait perfectly. Believing they'd broken human resistance, they were advancing toward Earth in tight formation, their collective consciousness unable to comprehend that apparent defeat might mask desperate strategy. Their ships moved through the solar system like predators approaching wounded prey, exactly as human planners had hoped. "Sir, incoming message from Dr. Chon on Earth," the tactical officer announced. "The gravitational calculations are confirmed. If we can detonate the prepared installations in the proper sequence, we'll create a cascade effect that will trap their entire fleet in a collapsing gravitational well." Helena nodded grimly. The plan was elegant in its simplicity and terrifying in its cost. By simultaneously detonating major installations throughout the solar system, each rigged with enough antimatter to create localized gravitational anomalies, humanity would essentially turn their home system into a massive trap. The Zephyrian fleet would find themselves caught in an inescapable gravitational prison, crushed by the very forces that govern planetary motion. "Captain, personal message from Admiral Chun," her communications officer said quietly. "He wants to know if you're ready to give the final authorization." Helena thought of her daughter, safely evacuated to the outer colonies, and of all the human children who would inherit whatever remained of their civilization. The Zephyrians had studied humanity's conflicts, but missed the deeper truth humans didn't just fight to win. They fought to ensure their species' survival, even if it meant sacrificing everything they'd built. "All stations," she broadcast on the emergency frequency. "This is Captain Helena Vasquez. In approximately 18 minutes, we will execute the final phase of Terra Protocol. Every human installation, every colony, every achievement of our species. In this system will be destroyed to ensure these invaders can never return to threaten Earth or any other world. She paused, looking out at the Martian landscape she'd called home for 20 years. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every species these aliens might encounter in the future. Our sacrifice ensures they'll never get a second chance to underestimate what it means to threaten humanity's children. The countdown began, 17 minutes until humanity's greatest victory would be built on the ashes of their greatest sacrifice. Asterisk. The gravitational cascade began with the destruction of Luna Base's fusion cores, their antimatter-enhanced detonation, creating the first critical distortion in local spacetime. Elena watched from the Mars Defense Station's observation deck as reality itself seemed to bend around the expanding sphere of twisted gravity. The Zephyrian fleet, caught between Mars and Earth in perfect formation, suddenly found themselves trapped in an invisible prison of their own making. Cascade effect confirmed. Her tactical officer reported, his voice filled with awe. Jupiter mining platforms are detonating on schedule. The gravitational well is expanding exponentially. Through her neural interface, Elena experienced the impossible, watching human civilization's greatest works become weapons in humanity's final gambit. The orbital cities around Earth exploded in sequence, their destruction timed to create gravitational waves that would compress the alien fleet into an ever-shrinking space. Mars terraforming stations added their energy to the cascade, their century of patient work undone in moments for the greater good. The Zephyrian ships, their collective consciousness finally understanding the trap, began desperate attempts to escape, but their formation flying, so effective against conventional enemies, became their weakness. Unable to break their coordinated movement patterns quickly enough, they found themselves compressed toward the center of an artificial gravitational well that grew stronger with each human installation's sacrifice. Captain, incoming transmission. From the Zephyrian flagship, the communications officer announced. They're requesting terms of surrender. Elena stared at the display, watching alien vessels being crushed together like insects in a closing fist. Tell them, she said quietly, that humans don't negotiate with species that threaten our children. Tell them this is what happens when someone challenges Earth's strength. The final phase of the cascade began as the asteroid belt mining platforms. Their courses carefully calculated, collided with the compressed alien fleet. A combined mass of mining equipment, alien vessels, and artificial gravitational fields created something unprecedented, localized collapse of spacetime that effectively erased the Zephyrian presence from the solar system dot as the gravitational effects stabilized. Elena received the report she'd been waiting for. All alien vessels destroyed or dispersed. The threat is eliminated. She activated the emergency broadcast system, knowing her words would reach every surviving human in the solar system. This is Captain Elena Vasquez to all human survivors. The Zephyrian collective has been eliminated. Their species came to our system expecting to find divided, primitive beings. Instead, they discovered what happens when humanity faces extinction. We become something greater than we ever imagined possible. Elena looked out at the transformed solar system, where the debris of human civilization mixed with the remains of alien invaders. The cost had been enormous. Most of humanity's space-based infrastructure was gone, centuries of progress erased in hours. But their children would inherit a solar system free from alien threat, and the story of humanity's response would serve as a warning to any species that might consider humans easy prey. The aliens studied our conflicts and saw weakness, she continued her broadcast. They didn't understand that every war we fought was practice for the war that mattered. They challenged Earth's strength, and they never got a second chance. In the years that followed, as humanity rebuilt their civilization from the ashes of their sacrifice, Elena's words became humanity's creed. We are strongest when we stand together, and we will sacrifice everything to ensure our children inherit a universe where being human means never having to surrender. The Zephyrian Collective had become a cautionary tale, their fate a message broadcasted to the galaxy. Challenge humanity at your own peril, because humans who fight for their children's future are capable of anything. Asterisk.